Hello, my friends. Well, just when you thought things couldn't get any crazier on this planet, they are actually getting more bizarre. So now it appears that UFOs and aliens are on the table.
Bombshell claims from a military whistleblower. UFO wreckage recovered by the U.S. kept classified by a secret government program for decades.
Did you hear about this? This guy named David Grush, who is part of the Pentagon and the U.S. intelligence agencies, revealed something publicly that most of us already knew. He admitted publicly to the media that the United States is in the possession of non-human crash vehicles, which include the bodies of extraterrestrials.
For the very first time, the world is about to hear from a former high-level U.S. intelligence officer who says the government has some of the unidentified craft in its possession.
Now, it's not that this news is especially spectacular. What's bizarre is that it looks like disclosure has finally happened. This guy from the Pentagon is openly saying that the government has been lying to us all these years, and now the cat's out of the bag. What's really noteworthy about this is that they're finally letting the secret out to the public.
David Grush, an Air Force veteran, former member of that task force, and veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, is formally blowing the whistle on secrets he says no one has ever shared publicly before.
Oh, and by the way, apparently this guy is not really a whistleblower because it's been said that the Department of Defense had to okay his coming out with this. That's probably why he seems so cheerful and unafraid.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
You're kidding.
No.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. The data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
And next comes the part about the dead aliens.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. Believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
Apparently, the government created a UFO task force named the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO. Now, these guys at AARO were not told about what this guy is coming out with. Yet the DoD is not discrediting him at all. So something very strange is going on here.
You're not making this up. This is not a lie.
No, absolutely not. I am for real. And I'm sitting here at great personal risk and obvious professional risk by talking to you today.
Now, this guy does not look like someone who feels he's at risk. So here's what I think is going on. Apparently, there are different factions in the government who have been at war with each other for decades about disclosure. Some want full disclosure, some want partial disclosure, and some want all of it kept secret forever. They've been fighting against each other for a long time. But recently, the ones who want disclosure have been making some headway. And now this looks like a breakthrough for that group because it appears that everyone is treating this as credible. But wait, the plot thickens. I think there are multiple storylines going on with this entire situation. A few days ago, this news came out in Las Vegas, Nevada.
It is the police call everybody will be talking about. Thanks for joining us here at 6 o'clock. I'm Denise Valdez.
I'm Brian Loftus. A family says something crashed into their backyard, prompting them to call 911, saying they saw creatures walking around.
Apparently, this family says that a UFO crashed in their backyard and there were two giant aliens aboard. So here's their 911 call.
So there's two people or two subjects that are in your backyard?
Correct, and they're very large. They're like 8 foot, 9 feet, 10 foot. I don't know. They look like aliens to us.
And then he describes them further.
Big eyes. They have big eyes, like I can't explain it. And big mouth. They're shiny eyes, and they're not human. They're 100% they're not human.
And next, the police got involved when these people called 911 about the aliens. And one officer's dash cam apparently caught this bright light falling to the ground.
The 8 News Now investigators obtaining another officer's video as he's sent to the Northwest Valley home.
I have butterflies, bro. Everyone saw a shooting star, then these people say there's aliens in their backyard.
The weird thing is that everyone, including the police, were taking this very, very seriously. Remember before, when anyone reported such a thing, they would be laughed off as a crazy person. Well, not anymore. The news media and the police are taking this very, very seriously. The police were actually a little freaked out. And here's what these media guys said about the people who reported it.
We've been in contact with the family in that video, and as you heard in that 911 call, they seem very reasonable and honestly quite scared as you heard them in the call. They don't seem impaired in any way.
So now we have a situation where the government openly admits to having retrieved crashed UFOs and that there are extraterrestrial beings. And shortly after, the news media assigns full credibility to these people who say there was a UFO and 2 aliens in their backyard. And now that story has gone viral. Obviously, these controllers are up to something. Now, at first glance, it might be that they are setting us up for their fake alien invasion. And before now, I really thought that the idea of a fake alien invasion was so ridiculous that they wouldn't actually try it. And then I stumbled across an interview clip with a woman who worked for Wernher von Braun for many years until he died. Unfortunately, I didn't save that interview clip, and when I went to look for it, then I couldn't find it. But I do remember what she said. Wernher von Braun was a Nazi aerospace engineer who was brought to the U.S. after World War II and worked for NASA for a while. I think it was in the 1960s. He is known as the father of space travel. Anyway, this lady who worked closely with him said that he used to tell her all about the controller's long-term plans. And the weird thing is that everything he told her was going to happen, it has all actually happened so far, except for one thing: the fake alien invasion. She says that he told her that a fake alien invasion would be their last card to play. She says that he told her this repeatedly. And right before he died, he told her one last time. He said, "Remember, when you see the fake alien invasion, that will be the last card." So I'm getting a little concerned that these controllers might actually be planning to pull this off. And you know what? These guys are completely nuts. They are just crazy enough to put us all through this level of nonsense. See, I always thought that this would only happen if they were desperate and if everything else they tried failed, because the whole thing sounds so stupid. I mean, it just sounds far too cartoonish to actually work. So I've been doing some detective work in my mind and trying to think of scenarios where this might be plausible. Then an idea struck me. You know how they keep going on and on and on about this climate nonsense? They're very busy trying to get everyone terrified about the weather. Because, we're not supposed to have weather. Weather is dangerous. And now people are so scared of weather that they'll do almost anything. They'll even eat bugs to save the earth. So they're building up all of this climate fear. They are literally using weather to terrorize everyone. So how can they get all of that fear to work for them in terms of enacting their larger plan? Because I don't think that everyone on Earth is going to buy this nonsense. Some people actually remember that weather is a real thing that has always happened. The odds of this weather scheme really working out the way they want, which is total control of everyone on the planet, the odds of that scheme working out, I don't think are all that great. The odds that they will succeed in a big way are probably pretty slim. These controllers are probably going to need a pretty terrifying way to legitimize this nonsense if they are going to get literally everyone on Earth to go along with them. And right now, I just don't think that's happening. However, picture this. What if they create a fake alien invasion and say that the aliens have come to Earth because they see that we humans are destroying our planet? Firstly, that would explain their possible weird script that the aliens only want to talk to world leaders and don't want to talk to us peasants. Do you remember all the years of programming and cartoons where the alien says, "Take me to your leader"? What if that was all just programming? They could say something really crazy. They could say that the aliens demand that the controllers follow through on their plans to lock us down, control us completely in order to save the Earth. They could say that the aliens gave them an ultimatum that either they lock us down and do all that other stuff they were going to do, or the aliens will kill all the humans on Earth. So naturally, the controllers would have to comply just to save the human race, right? I mean, who could expect them to argue with a bunch of technologically powerful aliens? And you just know that people would definitely go along with this, because this way, if the controllers fail in their original plot, then they could just say that the aliens are forcing them to do it. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you might say, "Come on, Saratoga, nobody here would ever fall for that." Maybe you guys wouldn't, but what about the masses? They appear to be ready to fall for anything. I mean, so far, there's almost nothing that they haven't fallen for when it's first introduced. And then we have to deal with the consequences of such stupidity, just like we had to deal with all the consequences of their lockdowns. So everything I just said about the reason why they might do it related to the weather issue, that's all just speculation. I mean, who knows? But then I thought further about this. So let me share with you now the one biggest reason that I think they might actually try this fake alien invasion. This reason actually sounds plausible to me. It has to do with Christians and the Bible. I recently discovered that supposedly the real reason they might try this is because they want to erase the biblical narrative that exists throughout the Western world so they can establish their one world planetary government control system. Now, here's where things get really crazy and almost comical, but also entirely serious, because this could actually work. Now, from what I've observed, Christians absolutely hate the idea of extraterrestrials. That's because the idea of ETs totally confronts their obsession with demons and the devil. So we literally have a human turf war between the Christian demons and the aliens about who are the bad guys on this planet. See, ever since this ET stuff came out, that aliens and UFOs are real, the Christians are having an absolute meltdown. The Christians insist, they absolutely insist that there are no aliens. There are no extraterrestrials. There are only demons and their Satan God. When you listen to these people, they sound like they really, really love their demons. They are totally freaked out that the idea of aliens might actually upstage their idea of demons. This really is like a stupid comic book. Seriously. Honestly, I can totally see how this alien invasion idea could ruin the Bible version of everything. I'll tell you a little interesting story. Some years ago, my family and I, we went to Roswell, New Mexico because we were trying to get away from the smoke of a forest fire. And in the summer in Roswell, they usually have a 1-year anniversary celebration about the Roswell UFO crash. And they have all these festivities, and it's all kind of alien themed, right? So at this conference, they had these little breakout rooms, right? And there was this one room where they had invited people who had been abducted by aliens or who had such an experience. So I went in there because I was curious. I just wanted to hear what was going on. And they had around, I don't remember, it was maybe 12, 15 people sitting around who had this experience, and each one was sharing their experience. And I remember this one woman who described her experience of an alien abduction, and then she said, "It completely ruined my experience of my religion. It's like my religion doesn't make any sense anymore. I don't know if she was a Christian, but I don't remember what denomination, but it kind of like that was it for her religion. There was like no way." She said, "My religion in no way has any way to address this or explain it." So yeah, she basically said it ruined her for her religion. And I think there was some agreement that this is a common thing. So when you look at how the controllers are obviously trying to destroy the Western world and its culture, you can see how they might need this alien plot to take down its religious underpinnings. And if it's possible to destroy Christianity and the biblical narrative with aliens, then the Christians have only themselves to blame. Now, why do I say that? It's because they are so darn defensive about their demons. According to them, there is no room for anything else bad in the universe except their demons, which makes them sound ridiculous and actually proves to me that their whole deal is really about preserving their fear-based belief system. This is how crazy it is. The Christians seem to want their enemy to be the biggest, most powerful enemy in the universe. And how dare anyone else challenge their demons with aliens? What a joke. All right, let's get real for a moment, shall we? It's actually possible that there could be 3 things all happening at once. Imagine that. Yes, there are actual real extraterrestrials and aliens. And there is also the fake version that Hollywood and the governments invented. And yes, there are also other weird interdimensional demons. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that no one has yet discovered, good and bad. I mean, it's a big universe, you guys, and it's interdimensional to the max. You know, it's like we have actual turf wars over belief systems on this planet. Which brings me to a topic that I think we really need to discuss seriously. And that is the subject of our Earth-based languages. Our languages are comprised of sounds, symbols, and concepts. Concepts are when you combine sounds and symbols in a certain way to form an idea. So our languages have given us a way to communicate with each other, but they are also what makes it possible to control our minds, our beliefs, and our perceptions of reality. So you can look at English, and then you can apply the same thing to every other language on this planet. Our languages are extremely primitive. They are designed to frame things in very specific ways. We attach words and concepts to everything, and then we dumb ourselves down because this ends up being all that we know. And this ends up being the only thing that we consider valid. And now we see how our language is being used against us and how it's being used to control our perception. Look at what's being done to us as men and women. We are told that what we thought was a woman isn't actually a woman at all. We are told that the old words that used to define us are no longer valid. So now a man can be a woman, and a woman is merely a birthing person. So now instead of the words man and woman, we have a whole bunch of letters, numbers, and colors thrown at us with constantly changing meanings. This is all an attempt to confuse us and disorient us about ourselves and about what reality is. So now these words and sounds and numbers have power because they define our reality. Let's take a look at something very curious about this. You know what a rainbow is, right? Interestingly, it has the same colors as our chakras. And it also shows us the spectrum of visible light that defines our perception of reality. Now think about transhumanism, which is the idea of transitioning our human biological species into a hybrid species of biological androids. A silicon species to be exact. They are using a very weird and somewhat complex form of alchemy to achieve this, much of it having to do with how they manipulate our minds. So we have rainbows, chakras, visible light, and the word trans. Now you start to realize that in order to transition the human species into something else, you also have to transition their system of chakras. You have to transition the human's visual perception of reality. Reminds me a little bit of the metaverse. Are you starting to see the subliminal message here? On the surface, we see rainbows and all the letters and numbers it represents during this transitional period. But underlying what we see is the subconscious message that this is about transitioning our human system of biological chakras and our perception of physical reality that is understood via the spectrum of visible light. And you know, sometimes I wonder if all this rainbow stuff and the letters and the numbers and all of that stuff, I wonder if it's some kind of weird ritual that helps to transition our human species into something else. I don't know. And by the way, I fully expect that at some point, probably soon, all of these confusing letters and numbers that represent people's shape-shifting identities will be simplified into one word that is transhuman. And transhumans will be considered the most protected class in society. And here's another reason that I think they want us to embrace the idea of chopping off body parts. The deeper reason is because they want us to accept extreme and radical changes to our human biology as being completely normal. The message is that, yes, you can change biology. Now, because of all this, we have reached a point where ascension also means that we must evolve the way in which we understand reality and the universe. Otherwise, we can be easily led over the cliff with the way that we are being constantly manipulated using our languages. All they have to do is change the meaning of words, and thus they can change reality and how we see ourselves. So, what's the alternative? I think it's becoming obvious that we need to evolve into understanding frequency and energy. Frequency is the language of the universe. It's the language of actual creation. See, frequency is a language that is understood literally everywhere. Now, I'm not suggesting that we should give up our earth-based languages. I'm just saying that we need to recognize how incredibly limited they are. I mean, think of it. It's because of these languages that we so often feel completely misunderstood. And then see, everyone wants to argue about whose concepts are right and whose are wrong. But what's the basis for the argument? See, in the end, the spoken or written word is always going to be highly inaccurate because you're literally slapping a fixed label on something or a group of somethings that doesn't change. It's fixed. And yet, life and the universe and creation is always in movement. It's always shifting. It's always changing. It's dynamic. But we have these fixed words, fixed concepts. We're all supposed to agree what they mean. Then we slap it onto different places in our reality. And we just get kind of messed up. Earth-based languages are languages of interpretation. They are designed to tell us how to interpret reality. That's what happens when you teach a child to talk. You're teaching that child, this is how you interpret this reality. And I'm not suggesting, as I said, that we stop that or that it's bad or wrong. It's the way it is here. But what we need to do is we need to expand beyond it so that that's not the only thing we know and understand. Because being that limited is getting us into a whole lot of trouble. So we can maintain those earth-based languages, we can use them as we have, but we still need to be a lot more conscious, a lot more awake into the universe, the universal language of frequency and energy, so that we have a more complete, comprehensive, coherent understanding of what is actually going on. Now, oftentimes, the way in which people interpret words, sentences, phrases, concepts, oftentimes they don't match up. And therefore, those words and ideas get misunderstood. Next thing you know, there's a lot of fighting and arguing. Now, in the language of frequency, there is no interpretation. In that language, everything is exactly what it is. See, frequency is accurate. It's not interpretational. It's actually a form of pure knowing. So in the universe, everything is known by its energetic signature, which is comprised of various combinations of unique sets of frequencies. Now, you want to be operating from a quantum level if you really want to understand frequency. I actually think that more and more people are starting to realize that we need to evolve our consciousness into waking up at a quantum level. This is especially important because the chaos and the manipulation of our language is only going to increase, not to mention the censorship. Now, I think humanity is doing a great job at waking up when it comes to recognizing how much we've been lied to and who the perpetrators are. But unfortunately, this hasn't stopped the controllers from trying. And realizing what's going on is only our first step. Now, I always say that we need to evolve back into our true selves and function as creators. But it's also important that we understand ourselves as creators at a quantum level. We need to wake up at that level because that's actually a higher level than the one that the controllers operate from. So how can we do that? It's really a question of understanding the different levels of matter. See, the quantum field is where templates of creation get created via thought. It's the space of infinite possibilities. Now, if you reduce matter down to its smallest size, you have molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, photons, and light. Ultimately, you have vast, vast amounts of space. That's the quantum field of creation and of infinite possibilities. The quantum field is what our superconsciousness is connected to. See, the thing is, we're already connected to the quantum field. We are actually already connected to everything that we need as creators. And I really often think that our intense dedication and devotion to our earth-based languages is what actually holds us back. It's that dedication and that belief that that's the only reality. The only reality is what our words can define, what our words can point out, what our conceptual mind can actually think about. And then we live as though that's all there is. That's why we're so trapped. And then we also have the problem that we are so deeply wedded to our beliefs that it causes us to be unconscious of these higher levels. See, if an idea doesn't fit in with our belief structures that form our individualized realities, then we have an extremely difficult time letting go. Now, a lot of times, the survival that we are looking to preserve is actually the survival of our beliefs. And this is what stops us from evolving into our full power at a quantum level. See, our beliefs form our perception of reality. Our beliefs exist at the level where matter has already manifested. So a lot of times we end up fighting with what already exists instead of creating something new. Now, as you know, I share a lot about what is going on in this world, so you can be mindful of where we are and of what the collective is being exposed to. And when you understand the totality of what is going on, it's much easier to release any dysfunctional beliefs that might be attached to it. So what you can do is think of your own life as your creative laboratory. You can look around and see what your current personal reality is comprised of. Then you can look at the larger world of the collective and understand the larger context within which your personal reality exists. Seeing this gives you the power to shift your context and shift your reality into something better. It can actually help you to feel more conscious without being attached. And it helps you to have a greater understanding of what you want and what you don't want. Let me explain another reason why I share so much about what is going on this planet. A lot of what I share with you all is because I want you to understand the influences that are at play in your experience that if you're not aware of, you won't know about it. In which case, it's still going to be influencing you because we are a collective humanity, right? We are in a collective sea of human energy on planet Earth. And if you do not fully understand the nature of the events on this planet, you're going to have those influences in your energy field, and you might think it's you. You might misinterpret what you're experiencing, or a lot of what you're experiencing, and think, for example, that you have anxiety, stress, depression, a lot of problems that maybe you're not really clear why, because you don't understand the bigger picture. When you understand the bigger picture, there can be a kind of a release from within you, a kind of expansion of your consciousness, where you feel more awake, more aware, and more alive, and more able to make good, positive choices for yourself and be very clear about your evolutionary direction. Because in order to have clarity about your journey and set your intention for where you really want to go that is best for you, where you can follow that inner guidance and understand it and make sense of it, it's a good idea to be aware of the terrain upon which you are operating. To be aware of the terrain upon which your evolutionary journey is currently taking place. So that's why I share a lot of what I share, so that you can put it in perspective, so that you can be clear what is you and what is not you. It's all about clarity. Clarity supports empowerment. Clarity is an expansion of consciousness. And you know, a lot of times I make fun of these controllers. I portray them as cartoons. The reason I do that, you guys, is to help you have perspective. When I do those things, when I add humor when I'm talking about them and joke around, and sometimes I draw my cartoons about them, it's because I want to help you have what I always call an extraterrestrial perspective. I want to help you be able to stand back and have perspective about what this actually is, and about how this is not a bunch of geniuses operating on this planet. Because we really need to be able to comprehend who we are, who they are, and what the larger universe is, and what is in our hearts, what is real and true for us. Because all of those things combined in consciousness allow us to set forth on a brilliant path, on a path of actual ascension, not imaginary ascension, but real ascension, real evolution. So in understanding the collective situation, it can also help you understand some of what may have happened to you and how you may have been affected. It doesn't mean you identify with it. It doesn't mean, oh, we're going to add energy to it if we talk about it. Because I've heard that too. Saratoga, don't say those things. Don't talk about that stuff because you're just helping them manifest it. Guys, they don't need my help to manifest it, okay? They've got the whole planet helping them. The whole planet of unconscious people helping them. What we're trying to do is bring consciousness into the situation so that we're not confused. And if you're here as a light worker, if you perceive yourself in that way, if you experience yourself as a starseed, a light worker, or just someone who's here to help, You know, if that's the case, hey, we need to be a lot stronger. We can't be so intimidated. Oh, no, don't talk about it. Don't think about it. Just focus on the light. Focus on the good. Don't add energy to the bad. We're not adding energy to the bad. We are being conscious of what it is, and so that we can focus and put our energy into where we want to go. That's what we're doing. We can't afford to be all scared and intimidated by all these bad things because, guys, that is not a powerful place from which to live. It's really not. And what I try to do is help you all put it in perspective so that you're not intimidated by it. That's the whole point. So maybe I'll talk more about this in another video because I really think it's important that you guys understand why I talk about the things I talk about. Okay, so let's get back to being creators from the quantum field. So whatever you see as your own life, realize that there is a template or a blueprint for that reality that got created in the quantum field. And understanding your reality as a template of frequencies, instead of understanding it as a bunch of beliefs that you need to protect, is the first thing that can help you tune into understanding frequency. See, the template that you call yourself right now on a physical level, or the template that you would call your own life as it exists right now, all of that is comprised of frequencies of energy. So it's much easier to transform and elevate those templates when you use the science of frequency than it is to try and change it by changing beliefs alone. That's a lot harder. Changing just the beliefs is much more difficult. See, beliefs are more difficult to change because they are intertwined with so many invisible frequencies that you may not understand. So I would suggest that you start by recognizing that everything that exists is comprised of energy. You can actually try little experiments. Literally go around and touch various items. See if you can feel them energetically instead of only interpreting them mentally. Oh, and let me explain to you another way that the words and language make us unconscious about the life we live in the world around us. See, when you think you understand a piece of your reality via words and concepts, and you're just repeating that belief over and over and over again every time you encounter that part of your life, your brain thinks, I already understand this. I don't need to be aware of what it is because now you're living on the concept of how you interpret it rather than living on the reality of that situation or that thing itself. That doesn't always go very well because this universe is very, very dynamic. This reality, all realities are very dynamic energetically. So we actually can become very unconscious about the reality we live in because our brains are just fixated on the words and the concepts about what they are. Do you see what I mean? So as I said, you want to go around and touch various things and see if you can understand them energetically instead of only interpreting them mentally. You know, like that's a tree, that's a house, that's a car, that's a rock, that's whatever, right? See if you can understand things energetically. That will be an expansion of your consciousness. Now, an interesting way to do this is to do it with items that are natural, like crystals, maybe a branch, maybe just a stone that you find outside, anything that's a part of nature. Just feel these natural items and let them show you what they are by their energy. This is much more accurate than slapping a word on something and thinking you know what it is. So this is a very practical way that you can actually expand your consciousness into understanding frequency and energy. Because, we can just sit around and talk about it and think about it and agree with it and all of that, but it's not going to change us. What we need to do is start doing some practical things that actually will evoke change in our experience. So what I've just shared with you is something that you can do all the time, whenever you think of it. It doesn't have to be like some big planned out ritual. You can just do it whenever it comes to mind. Just say, I'm going to try this. I'm going to expand my consciousness beyond just interpreting everything I see with words and language. And just see if it starts to shift you inside of yourself. One thing it will do for you, which is amazing, it will increase your intuition. It will empower your sense of inner guidance. It's a really simple, sometimes the most powerful things are the simplest. And I think this is one of them. So I hope you're going to try this. Leave me a comment. Let me know if this is something you are going to try. Okay, so before I finish, I want to talk to you about this device that I mentioned earlier. This is what it looks like. This is a frequency device. It's called a Healy. And this tiny little, I say it's tiny because it's very, very powerful. It's very advanced technology. That's frequency technology. And I know there's a lot of frequency devices in the world. There's all kinds of frequency stuff that's been around for a long, long time. But what makes this one different? Because this one's definitely vastly different. Well, for one thing, it has a quantum sensor in it. Interesting, right? It can read and detect your actual blueprint in the quantum field. Then it can read your current state of energy and deliver to you whatever frequencies you need in real time, in the moment, completely personalized to you, customized for you, the frequencies that you need to elevate you to something much closer to your original divine blueprint. Crazy, isn't it? Now, honestly, when I first got this, I actually had a hard time believing it. Not because I didn't experience it, but because I was like, how is this possible here? I've never seen anything like this here. I've never seen a technology like this here. Do you know that when you use this, you are never going to get the same set of frequencies twice? Because you are a dynamic human being. Your energy is constantly shifting and fluctuating, as is all of life. And this frequency device is responsive to you in the present time. It's amazing. I'm not going to take a lot of time to explain what it does and all of that, but I want you to be aware of this. Yes, it costs money. It does. That's just the way it is. It costs money. So if you have a problem with things that cost money, don't bother clicking on the link. I'm going to put a link below in the description. But, some people, I don't know, but some people really have a hard time whenever a spiritual person says that anything in the world costs money. If you're like that, you might want to go watch the video I did recently. I think it was a couple videos ago about money. Because you guys, we have got to stop this nonsense that we're supposed to be poor. We're supposed to live in poverty. That's being spiritual. And the controllers are evil because they have amassed all the wealth at our expense, which is crazy. Because all they do is manipulate numbers. And we hide in the corner just so afraid of being a bad person that we're okay with being poor. That's exactly what they want us to do. Where do you think the whole phrase, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy? Where do you think that came from? Do you think that would even be possible if we weren't so intimidated by money? Oh my goodness. We've been set up for this for centuries, you guys. We have been set up. So like I said, you know, if you think money's a horrible thing and anything that costs money must be evil or bad, don't click on the link, okay? Just forget it. I don't know what to say. But if you are not really of that kind of mindset and you think, hey, I want to know what it is because who knows, you know, miracles happen. Maybe I can get one. Why not? Why not be open? You never know, right? Maybe it's a better thing to do to check it out because it's awesome. It's incredible. It's highly advanced technology. It's just beautiful. Maybe it's better to just check it out. See what your heart says. See if your heart says, I want one of those. And then if you feel like you can't get it or you can't buy it or whatever right now, okay, fine. You can still set an intention that maybe somehow you will if you want it. Now, of course, if you don't want it, well, then that's a done deal, right? There's no point in going any further, which is fine. It's totally fine because not everybody wants this. I don't think this is like, oh, everybody would want one of these because that's not true. I think this is an evolutionary tool. I think it is a beautiful, highly, highly effective bridge to the quantum field. Yeah, and not everybody's interested in that, you know, which is fine. It's totally fine. But anyway, as I always say, follow your heart, follow your instincts, follow your intuition, and do whatever you feel is the best thing for you. So let's keep going. Let's keep evolving. Let's stay on the path of ascension and evolution because that's the only wonderful purpose that you can have that accommodates everything in your life and is wonderful. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you think would like to know about a possible fake alien invasion, or maybe someone who would be interested in expanding their consciousness to understanding things as frequency and energy and experience the empowerment that that can bring to all of us. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I'm here on Tuesdays with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you so much love, light, and high vibrational energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Namaste.